So here's a seemingly simple question that you may get asked. How big is your company? I have seen sales lost because people guessed at the answer. Stick around and I'll show you what I mean. Hi, I'm Brian Brereton, and if you're guessing in sales, you're gambling. If you're in this high ticket, high stakes world, your income, your reputation, and your time is what you're gambling with, and it's not smart. And today I want to break down why the top, the elite, the 1% of salespeople never guess. And what does that even mean? And how you can stop guessing. This one mindset shift will literally change how you sell forever. And once you become aware of it, it's one of those things, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Have you ever walked out of a meeting and thought, not really sure what happened? The prospect you think was interested, but you're not sure why. You think they might have budget, but you're not sure if it's going to play into where you're going to land. You think they'll probably move forward. You're not sure. You're not sure when. A lot of that is guessing, and it's a killer to sales. It's one of the main reasons that deals stall. It's the reason pipelines are often a fantasy. It's probably the biggest reason why great salespeople burn out because they're chasing these shadows and their guesses instead of facts. So let's define it. What does guessing look like in practice? And we don't have a lot of rules in our framework, but no guessing is right up there as probably rule number one. It often means asking vague questions like, what's your budget? And accepting vague answers like, it depends. Uh, it can mean assuming a positive tone means a qualified buyer. It can mean believing the absence of objections means they're ready to buy. Guessing is pretending you know what's going on when you don't, even if you think you know the answer. And the worst part, the client can usually tell that you're bluffing and or guessing. Most of us, most of you, don't guess out of laziness or any sort of malice. We guess because we're afraid to ask or we're too ignorant of the situation to ask. And I don't mean ignorant in a demeaning way at all. I mean ignorance, the absence of knowledge. Sometimes we're just too afraid of sounding direct. Sometimes we're afraid of being told no. Or we've told ourselves this story, if I ask this question, I already know what's going to happen. We're afraid of what happens if we really know the truth, because then we have to deal with it. But here's the thing, you can't solve a problem that you don't understand. And you definitely can't serve a client that you don't know. I've asked salespeople, who else is the prospect looking at? And they don't know. They don't know because they didn't ask. They're guessing that we are the only solution because they're in this great conversation. They also don't ask because they're afraid of the answer. Why would I put it in the client's head to look at someone else? They're going to look at someone else. And if they're not looking at someone else, I want to know why they're not looking at someone else. Maybe I'll encourage them to look at someone else. How confident am I in my solution? And maybe I'm not the best one to help them. Think about it though. If they're looking at you, they're probably looking at others. So let's get that out on the table by asking. Here's how I see guessing play out sometimes, even with simple questions. And let's refer back to that first question. How big is your company? That is a simple question that you should know the answer to. No? I don't think so. What if I told you again that you could lose the entire deal just with that one question by guessing? So let's give it a try. And I've done this in hundreds of workshops with hundreds of salespeople. So let's say you know how big your company is, and the client obviously wants something, and we usually think they want reassurance of how. So we say, hey, we have clients globally. We operate in several countries. We have enough team on staff to work on large, complex projects. We do blah, blah, blah million per year. So far, so good, right? We're telling the client how big we are, which was their question. Except their response is, well, that's too bad. We're hoping to work with a small boutique firm. We had a really bad experience with a company that had all those attributes. And so we've made a firm company decision to not work with those type of companies anymore. Hey, but we really appreciate your time and thanks for the call, or thanks for coming by. Meeting over in minutes. Let's go the other way. Client asks, and we say, oh, we are a small, responsive, boutique firm. We are able to be nimble and agile and flex to any customer situation. And they say, oh, that's too bad. We were looking for a large global company that could handle the multiple locations we have in the future should this project go well. And we really needed somebody who has a strict methodology so we can roll it out across rather than be nimble and try to adjust. So again, we made a company decision to not work with companies like that anymore. Hey, but we really appreciate your time. Thank you for coming by. So what's really happening there is we guess at what we think the client wants. Sometimes we guess that we want to be perceived as large. Other times we guess at, forget it. Anytime a client asks you the question like that, if your goal is to look good, you'll guess. If your goal is to actually help, and remember, we're going to get deep into that because intent counts more than technique. I think techniques are important, but nothing beats intention. You'll stop guessing. You'll start getting really real with your client. So here's the shift you need to make. No guessing is simply, if I don't know, I'll ask. If I'm not sure, I'll clarify. If I need to challenge something, I'm going to do it respectfully. Again, one of our other rules, we don't have many, and they're really simple to remember. If you see it, hear it, or feel it, you've got to say it respectfully. Questions come up, hey, do you do X? Well, you could just say, yes, we do, and start babbling about your solution. We get things, hey, do you do sales training on whatever? Hey, do you do coaching? And by the way, of course we do. At our heart, we're a sales training and coaching company. But the great way, or the better way to answer that question would be something along the lines of, hey, that's definitely one of our core competencies, or hey, that's definitely something we could do for you. But I have found that, and then whatever they asked about. So I have found that when clients talk about sales training, that's a pretty broad term. So what do you mean when you say sales training? Or what does sales training look like to you? Do you see the difference? Before I'm going to answer the question, I get clarification. So I know how best to answer the question. I don't want to just throw a whole bunch of stuff out that's irrelevant. I want to answer the question. Now, this is not avoiding the question. This is not being general and vague. Hey, how much is it? Hey, we'll get to that. Answer the question. But answer the question once you know why it's being asked. So get that in your head. I only want to answer questions when I know the reason and the intent behind it from the customer. I'll give you a hint. You can even just say, why do you ask? Although that does get repetitive and can be highly annoying if you just ask it after every question. Why do you ask? Why do you ask? What's your name? Why do you ask? So in that earlier example, we simply say something like, hey, great question. Why do you ask? Or, it sounds like that's important to you. Can I ask you why? And they will tell you. So I can then formulate my answer to best fit. It's not manipulation at all. It's me getting clarity on what the customer wants and then being able to answer in such a way that I either fit or don't fit. Sounds very simple. It is very simple. What it's not is easy, but it is powerful. And We have a saying, don't confuse simple and easy. I love simple, but simple is often not easy. And again, no guessing is a simple but powerful tool you can have. No guessing is about getting permission from the client to be clear and then using that clarity to move forward together or not. Hey, walk away from the deal, but walk away with integrity and walk away knowing why. So instead of saying something like, sounds like this might be something you're interested in, you could say, can I ask, does this feel like a priority to solve now or something to park for later? Questions that bring clarity around where they are in that decision. Asking questions about price or, hey, let's talk real numbers so we both know if this makes business sense. And then we have a 3-part money response that works in every situation, which we'll get to on another instruction, another video. And once you have that in your tool belt, it's a game changer. We don't want to be vague. We want to be clear. So when the client asks you something, you just need to make sure that you know why you're answering the question. And build this into your sales DNA. It's okay to ask permission to ask deeper questions. You can say things like, hey, would it be okay if I ask you just a few things to make sure I actually understand what's going on with you? I've never had a client say no to that. And if they did, my next question would be, why? Or why not? Because I need clarification. Never assume clarity. There's that quote about the illusion of communication is that we think it actually happened. Simple phrases, simple words. Let's get agreement on what we're actually talking about. Again, can you help us develop this cloud solution for whatever? And you can, but maybe the client has a different vision of what that cloud solution is. Get their vision, get their idea. So always confirm. You can also, if they've made a statement or something, you can also reflect it back to them. I like to say, let me reflect this back to you, what you just said, and tell me if I've got it right. Or let me restate this back to you the way I heard it, and you tell me if I've got it right or wrong. Or you tell me if I'm on the right track. And don't rescue the client from their own uncertainty would be another thing to do when you're in this no guessing. If they don't know what they want, don't guess for them. Help them discover it. That's your job by asking the questions. And through it all, stay neutral. Remember from our last video, sales does not equal persuasion. I am not there to persuade. I am there to understand. And the moment you let go of the outcome, you gain the power to guide the process and you do your clients a great service. So the best sales calls actually don't feel like sales calls. And I use these techniques in everything we're doing. I've had people where we're interviewing them for positions say, when's the interview going to start? I'm like, man, I'm done. Like, we've already had enough Q&A. We've clarified. We've done all sorts of stuff, and it didn't feel like it. And best sales calls are the same way. They don't feel like sales calls. They're conversations between two people solving a problem. And real conversations are not built on guessing. They're built on truth. They're built on clarity. And your client deserves that, and you deserve that. So next time you're on a call and you feel yourself drifting into assuming you know the answer, just take a breath, pause, and you can even ask the client, hey, can I check something with you so I don't make any assumptions here? That one line can change everything for you. So thanks for watching. If this helped you, hit the like button. If you want more like this, please subscribe. And remember, no guessing ever. And we'll see you next time.